Hello, welcome to another episode of Reviews for the Ride Home, where you hear my first thoughts after just seeing a movie before I even write the review. Before I even start talking about this movie, I apologize for the drum set behind me. They may rattle as I drive, and you might hear a little drum beat going on there. Sorry about that. So the movie I just got out of was Big Hero 6, an animated Disney movie about Hiro, a 13-year-old robotics expert, coping with the death of his brother and also trying to stop a supervillain who he suspects of stealing something very important to him. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to give away any spoilers. The movie is very good. It does deserve the high rank that it is getting. However, I don't think it's as good as everyone is kind of making it to be. I think there's a lot to really like in it. One thing that really hit me about it in a positive way was its depiction of loss for a 13-year-old boy. Very realistically, we see him go through the stages of depression actually pretty flawlessly, and we see him realistically cope with everything without ever outwardly being completely healed. And it's something actually really nice, because in so many of these movies, we see just a complete 180. They go from being, hating of the world and hating of everybody around them and bitter towards everything to just, the happiest person on earth. And that's not what we see in Big Hero 6. We see a much more realistic turnaround and a much more realistic growing of a character. And I like that because it leaves room for him to grow more if they do choose to do sequels. That being said, that's really the only thing that set Big Hero 6 apart from the rest. It is every superhero movie that we've seen in the last, 20 years. We see the villain who's obviously who you kind of suspect from the beginning. If you've seen superhero movies, you know exactly who it's going to be. They build it up as this big mystery. They build it up with red herrings. It's exactly what you would expect it to be. And that kind of got annoying because I was hoping to see a bigger, better story from a company like Disney with this kind of material. Wreck-It Ralph was the same. It had not much in story, not necessarily the most original story, but it took it in a really, really clever and original way. Here, the story is not original at all, and it really doesn't ring through as original. What does ring through is the characters' interactions with this depressed 13-year-old boy, and I like that. I also really enjoyed the Baymax character. I thought I was going to hate Baymax. I don't like when characters are zany for the sake of being zany. I don't like when they're funny for no reason. Baymax was written very well. He had his reasons to be silly. He had his purpose to be funny and make you laugh. It actually all made perfect sense, and that I really liked about the character. I was worried he was just going to be a toss-away funny character, but really he was actually charming and lovable. And I also love the other characters, even though we really don't spend much time with them, and even though it really isn't Big Hero 6 as much as it is Big Hero 2, and the four of them also have a point somewhere in there. I like who they are, I like how they interact, I like their attitudes. They're just different enough to keep them interesting and make me want to get to know them, but also just cliche enough that I also don't need to know them. I know who they are and I like who they are. If there's one thing that I really found creative, it was the use of robotics to make these superheroes and give them their superpowers. It led to some superpowers that we haven't really seen before. And even though I never read the original comic book that this is based off of, I looked at a lot of pictures from it and I've seen a lot of things from it, and it looks weird. It looks like these characters have powers that I would never comprehend or think of on my own. They look bizarre, and I can't pretend to even begin to understand it. But this put it in a way that to me read as clever and interesting and fun, and like they thought of it almost at the top of their heads, and I really, really like that. Sorry about the drums. I like that it rang that way. It made this girl who has a strange superpowered purse suddenly a lot more fun and a lot more almost believable in a weird way. But all of that aside, Big Hero 6 does suffer from some problems, the biggest one being blatant shouting of exposition, especially at the beginning, where our main character shouts at the screen, "Well, they're not here. Our parents died when I was 3. Don't you remember?" He's living with his aunt. It's established from the beginning. We don't need to know that. We can understand that his parents are gone, and we can even accept that he misses them through his relationship through the brother. We don't need blatant exposition like that. And more importantly, the kids don't need it. Kids understand that. Kids are way smarter than we give them credit for. They'll understand that he doesn't have parents. And if they don't understand that, then that leads to a good conversation with mom and dad after the movie. So that really bugged me. The other thing that really bugged me was this story was so not original. It really wasn't that special. And because of that, it was frustrating, because we're looking at a very high-thinking story. We're looking at a very, very well-thought-out idea about this boy who's using his depression to fuel his invention and his desire for revenge, which I like it. It's nothing new, but the context of it being with a 13-year-old boy is something special, and the way that they arc his depression and his acceptance into it is all very believable and relatable. That's what made Big Hero 6 special. But we're talking about most generic plot twists, most forgettable moments. We're talking about moments that just immediately reveal everything about the movie that we know is going to happen. We're talking about a supervillain who really isn't that well thought out. It's just nothing really that special. And that kind of got to me. And in addition, the climax seems to come out of nowhere. The technology that just kind of pops into existence for for reasons of the movie needs it, it becomes a little bit annoying and it feels a little bit forced. But Big Hero 6 did put a smile on my face. I did have a lot of fun watching it, and I really do respect the movie for doing what it did. But it has to also be said that this is not the best animated movie of the year. To me, the best animated movie of the year, no question, the Lego Movie. This does not compare to the Lego Movie. And even though it has the darker themes, I think the Lego Movie was a far more well thought out, better written story than Big Hero 6 was. So you can head over to McHughReviews.com now. I'm sure my review is up at this point. Be sure to head to McHughReviews.com to check out all of your movie reviews. And I will see you next time on Reviews from the Ride Home. Have a good night.